The coronavirus outbreak.
Experience the extraordinary.
Tremendous waste and tremendous fraud. Mexico is, in fact, you will soon find out.
It is a day to celebrate.
We don't approve at all what's going on.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily unusual.
Challenge your ordinary.
Not only the government, the municipality here has had no plan.
Experience the extraordinary with StarSat.
Welcome to Amandla Omnotho Business Talk Show.
It was a legacy left by the apartheid government.
Yeah.
It's very important that for business people, whether they are especially SMMEs, in doing business with developing countries.
The measurements, on the other hand, that have been introduced to deal with COVID-19 have harmed our economy beyond what I think has even been measured.
The giants like China realizing that the US and Europe are losing the grip in the world economy, and Africa was a playground.
Many of black people's small businesses in particular are not even registered.
Any country that has ever been reliant on IMF has never been able to come out.
Africa is indebted to Asia and Europe.
Welcome to Amandla Omnotho Business Talk Show, a show that discusses economic fundamentals with a focus on small businesses. Tune into Amandla Omnotho Business Talk Show on Galaxy Universal Network, channel 500 on StarSat.
Good morning and a warm welcome to Galaxy News. My name is Sanda Nomusaka Kwabekuto and this is Pan-African Morning. Of course, I'm not going alone. I'm going with my co-host, the one and only, the Pan-African woman, Balisa Matumayane. How are you, my darling?
I'm wonderful, Bakay Sudumelang. Yes, welcome to the Pan-African Morning right here on Galaxy Universal Network.
Galaxy Universal Network is a company owned by 5 directors. As I have said, the CEO is led by our able woman, and we are black-owned company. And as such, part of our mission, vision, sacrifice, and choices is to conquer the African continent. By that I mean from Zambia, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Algeria, Kenya, Tanzania, from Cape to Cairo, my sister. However, part of our plan and our mission is to provoke the mindsets and the hearts of the African people by telling untold stories in an authentic way, in an unbiased way, in a way that has never been told before.
I think the most important thing in life is about growth. From where you were, I always tell young people that we must compete with our yesterday. And I got to prison. I had said, okay, right now they have sentenced me to effective 7 years. So what next? What am I going to do with my time? And I remember telling one of my very good friends, close friend, Nathan Mariaramut, I said to him, you know, when I leave this place, I'm going straight to a man that sentenced me. He was taken aback. He couldn't understand. Why would you go back to a man? Of course, he thought with no temper, I wanted to harm this man. I said, it's because that man changed my life. So there's something that's called time. When I'm talking to young people, we must always redeem the time. I no longer live in times, but I live in moments.
Welcome back again. If you have just joined us, we welcome you. We are still right here on Channel 500 on StarSat. As we mentioned earlier, that we've got a lineup of guests that are joining us today on this June 16th special. Right now on the phone, we are joined by Mr. Lulu Johnson. He's a former president of the ANC Youth League. Mr. Johnson, good morning and a warm welcome to Galaxy News.
Good morning, and good morning to all your listeners at Galaxy News.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Johnson. We first want to hear a little bit about yourself. Today we're commemorating the Youth Day, a day that actually is yet to be commemorated for the many, many more years to come. I mean, you were maybe a leader of the ANC Youth League to an extent that you were deputy president, years later. We want to hear that the struggle that, the youth of June 16 fought at that time. Was it the similar struggle that you fought a few years ago when you were at the ANC Youth League? And is it the same struggle that you still fight today?
Yes and no. At the time we were younger in 1976, the struggles were different.
Yes.
At the end, it meant sacrificing to an extent even your life. At that time, it also meant that you needed to engage with all what you have.
Yes.
At the end, ensuring that you and me today are enjoying the freedoms that we are enjoying. It meant people being killed, being exiled, being in prison. So, if you like, this is not a freedom that came through a silver platter.
Yes.
It is not a freedom that was free. It was a costly freedom.
Yes.
Today, of course, then, Frantz Fanon would have been saying that every generation has to determine its own mission, whether it makes it or it fails it. That's up to that generation. That generation of ours we defined ourselves as those death defiers.
Yes.
We defined ourselves as those that were there for freedom.
Yes.
But what we have today is a generation that still wants to harp on the same old generational efforts, if you like, to an extent that they call themselves still as young lions. A young lion is not for anyone else, but for those that Oliver Tambo had given the mantle as young lions, because we were death defiers.
Yes.
Today's generation has to come up with its own mission.
Yes.
Define its own mission. We have such an opportunity that the young generation of today, they have so much that they need to get going with.
Yeah.
I mean, if they are to talk about, for instance, freedom economic freedom in our lifetime, the opportunities are so humongous. You are supposed to be talking about, for instance, having to ring fence, if you like, especially in the area of arts and culture.
Yes.
Now, to an extent that if you were to say economic freedom in our lifetimes, you are supposed to have a very, very huge, industry called arts and culture. I mean, this is a multi-billion rand, project that the young people of today are supposed to be saying to themselves and to everyone else. Here, this is where we belong, and no one else must come in.
You know what, Mr. Johnson? At the studio right now, we're actually joined by another former young lion, now a BLF leader, Mr. Andile Mngxitama. Probably, as you speak, I can actually see his reaction on some of the things that you're saying. Probably, I would probably take initiative. We apologize to ambush you on that one, but maybe bring him on board on this conversation to hear maybe some of the things that he also believes that maybe they might not be exactly as you're putting them on. Mr. Mngxitama, I see you are actually shaking your head as Mr. Johnson is talking. Are there things that you actually disagree with what he says?
It's infuriating and also saddening that leaders of South Africa have no real grasp with the conditions of the youth and the excluded. He says there are opportunities all over. They must just become artists and cultural. As we speak today under COVID-19 lockdown, let me tell you about artists. Black artists are completely excluded. They are starving, literally starving. And this man, he says, oh, you know, there are major opportunities. This is an insult to the memory of the young people of 1976 who died struggling for liberation. That was a Black Power moment. Got nothing to do with the ANC, got nothing to do with Young Lions, got nothing to do with O.R. Tambo, everything to do with Stephen Bantu Biko and Abraham Tiro. And it is Black Power. Today is Black Power. And this ANC government he represents have removed from the memory of our people what actually that day is about. They've turned it into this kind of, you know, celebratory madness, which is part of forgetting. Then you can say the youth have opportunities today because they are free. There is no freedom yet.
Mr. Johnson, your right to respond to that?
I couldn't hear
Mr. Mngxitama is saying that it is an insult to the South Africans that you are saying that there are opportunities out there. He says that it is madness that we're going to sit here and hear you say that South Africa is enjoying the freedom, obviously, that we didn't get for free. He is actually saying that everything else that you are saying is actually null and void. Is that correct, Mr. Mngxitama?
The youth in this country are the most excluded. More than 60% of the youth have never seen a job. Just that. How many?
Okay, Mr. Mngxitama, let's offer him an opportunity to respond. Yes.
Over the years, the priorities have been upside down. You need to get into that space and be able to say, focus now and refocus, because all the years, you know, since 1994.
Yes.
Of course, there were processes that were involved in on youth policy and all of those.
Yes.
Over the years, we have been busy with issues that have no relevance to what we are supposed to achieve as especially black youth in this country.
Yes.
Which is quite unfortunate.
Yes.
But I am saying is that it's not anything that you are supposed to say, no. There is nothing relevant in what you know has to happen. But today, you need to be able to refocus these young people and be able to say, here are these opportunities for young people, especially who are black, who have struggled.
My apologies, Mr. Johnson. Probably maybe we may have to now identify the opportunities that you're talking about. Let us just maybe label them and say, if we say that there are opportunities for young people, I'm sure there's the viewer at home sitting there and asking, Mr. Johnson, you're talking about which opportunities. Can you mention maybe a few of those or two of those opportunities that you're referring to?
I am mentioning, I repeat, arts and culture is a huge multi-billion rand project. I am saying, as young people of this country, especially black, find it in your heart to make sure that you rally society so that you have this program that talks to arts and culture having to be ring-fenced as youth dedicated space that your economic freedom in our lifetime has to talk to.
Are we talking about the current...
coming in the night? Mr. Johnson, you're speaking to Palesa Muchumiyana. I'm an artist as well myself. And now, when you're talking about opportunities that artists are supposed to be going after in government, I think the question here is, where do we access those opportunities? Because now I know of a whole lot of artists, especially artists that are not famous. Now we're talking down to, theater artists, artists in the townships, that are actually not able to get or access, those opportunities. So when you're involving now the arts and culture, we're going back now to the Department of Arts and Culture. Where is that money that is actually funding the artists so that artists are able to get hold of them? So those opportunities, how do people or the youth of South Africa access those opportunities?
That is exactly the point I'm raising. In fact, that Department of Arts and Culture is meant to be a department that young people in this country, they get to be playing around. They get to find themselves having to have access exclusively. Because these arts and culture activities, they involve in one way or another young people, in fact, exclusively young people.
Yes.
You can talk maybe exceptions of that, John Gani and a few of them. Probably that's like 1%. But by and large, these are young people who are actively involved in those areas.
So
now,
are you saying, sorry, Mr. Johnson, are you saying that these opportunities are available, or this is actually an opportunity that you are saying it could be made available? This is what the Department of Art and Culture should be standing for. But we all know that at this present moment, this is not what is happening. Probably, Mr. Mngxitama, let us just give all the questions so that we can let him go quite very soon. My first question that I'm asking Mr. Johnson is, are the opportunities that he is mentioning, what he believes that the Department of Art and Culture should be doing, because that's not what's happening, of course, right now. We all know that. Or is it what he is claiming that it is happening right now, so that we can maybe ask for proof at a later stage? Over to you, Mr. Mngxitama.
Lulu Johnson, Member of Parliament, ruling party, the ANC is in power for 26 years now. He speaks. Okay, it's no longer a member of Parliament. He's member of the ANC, the ruling party. 26 years later, he says the youth must organize themselves and go to the Department of Arts and Culture, and that's where the economic freedom is going to be. Economic freedom means the totality of the wealth of this country must be redistributed to its people. He says we must dance and become all of us cultural, performers, and go to the Department of Arts. That's where our economic freedom is going to be. This is the problem of the ANC, and that is why I say it's an insult to the memory of the children of 76, when it's got nothing to say about the land question, the minerals, which is real ownership of the economy, which is still in the hands of a white minority. Our people, year in, year out, give the ANC the mandate to transform this society. They have not done so. This is, for me, the biggest insult. Now we narrow the idea of economic freedom to the Department of Arts and Culture, which is failing. There is very same youth who are in that situation.
The very same artists.
The artists themselves, as I'm talking about, as we speak, there are multiple artists who are saying we are starving. And then he says the opportunities all everywhere, and all we need to do is to organize ourselves. He's not saying government as a policy is giving so many people access. Not only that, he's confusing the small sector called arts and culture with the economic liberation. In South Africa, just an example.
Yes.
White people own up to 97% of the JSE land. About 80% of the land is owned by about 30,000 white people, right? And we are a country of about 58 million people. The ANC, whom he represents, whom is supposedly supposed to conclude this project of the Black Power movement, has done nothing. In my view, what has happened up to now is an insult to the memory of, in fact, Lulu Johnson should not be talking about 1976. I mean, he should actually not do that, because he's just insulting those children who stood up against the apartheid monster to give him
I'm sure
the
Mr.
freedom
Johnson
that
has a voice, and I'm sure he
no,
would
but
want to.
he has no moral standing to talk about 1976 children when our youth today have been neglected to the extent that they have been.
And I think I would like to give
respond
Mr. Johnson
to
an
that,
opportunity.
to what
Yes.
Andile Mngxitama has just said. I hope that you've actually heard what he just said this morning.
You see the challenge that you have with Mr. Mngxitama. He,
sorry, apologies about that.
He wants to be all over in his arguments. To an extent, you will never be able to pin him down on any specific area, which is quite an unfortunate situation. Here you are saying, having had all of these challenges over the period since 1994, having not been able to pin down as to what is it exactly that the new mission of those that are today actively involved, especially learning from the 1970s, where in the 1970s youth, gave their all for you and me, for him as well, to be free today.
I'm not free. Don't speak for me, I'm not free.
Now, what we have today is an opportunity for young people to be able to say, in this arts and culture, in this sport and recreation, you have 99% plus of those in society who are young.
Who are benefiting? Are you saying those 99% of young people?
Who are not benefiting.
Oh.
Who are not benefiting, but by right are supposed to be championing, benefiting, running those programs.
Okay.
Case in point here, for instance, Skyring, you have a group of 3 younger fellows. They got about 350 million rands a project.
That is benefiting who, Mr.
Benefiting
Johnson?
who?
Skyring has got about 350 million, you're saying, but that is benefiting who?
He says 3 people. How many millions of young people are excluded in this country? I mean, this is part of the shock. He's now saying that young people... Okay, let's just ask the question. Why are young people not benefiting? Why are young people not benefiting?
Yes, let's let him answer.
You need to have more of such so that these artists do not leave Port Elizabeth to go and be stationed and be hobos at some point in Johannesburg, because they really would want you create a studio here in Port Elizabeth.
Maybe if I could cut you there, Mr. Johnson.
They are owned by young people.
Mr. Johnson, I want to make a very practical example right here. As you speak right now, you are live on Galaxy News, which is a television station that is broadcasting in the entire African continent. This television is owned by South Africans, black South Africans, that they knocked in the Department of Arts and Culture to say, Department, come and assist us. We want to start a new television broadcasting industry. We have hired a lot of young people in here, but the government had been not able to stand up on that. So what we're trying to figure out is, as a government, you are saying quite very, very clear that the government is supposed to be assisting those people. Now, let's find out, what is it that we can do now? We understand the problem. We understand that the government hasn't been doing what they're supposed to do. You made an example of 90% of people that are supposed to be benefiting, but they are not benefiting. What are the things that we can look up to say our government is working towards to change the current situation? Sorry about that. Yes, sir. Let's hope it's not COVID,
anyway, I was just driving from Johannesburg to PE.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, no, that's fine. As I'm saying, this is not supposed to be a long-winded process.
Yes.
This is not supposed to be a process that takes us longer.
Yes.
We have been there long enough since 1994.
Yes.
There is no theory that must come in anymore. The issues are straightforward.
Yes.
They're talking about having to implement. And that implementation must talk to young people coming together and be able to outline this is what has to happen. In the area of arts and culture, sports and recreation, these areas must be exclusively ring-fenced for young people in this country in terms of economic activity and benefit.
Yes, Mr. Johnson, we know this is what must happen, as you are saying, you're narrating it. This is what must happen, but it is not happening. So what is it? The question is, what is it that right now you are going to do as the government to change that? You are putting it quite very right. It must be exclusively for young people, but it's not. So what are we doing now?
You see, you're talking here, and yes, as Johnson expected to be, talking on behalf of government. And I find myself a bit unsettled.
Yes.
Because I am not part of government. Yes, it's an ANC-led government. The point I'm raising is that your young people in this country must be united in being able to say these areas that talk to arts and culture, sport and recreation.
Yes.
There must be a moratorium that says these areas exclusively must be ring-fenced so that they only cover the young people of this country.
Yes.
In terms of benefit and also in terms of being driven.
Yes.
Now, you have such a situation in existence. I think we shall be moving in a direction that is different.
Yes.
We will not be able to say here now today.
Yeah.
But if you are able to say there is now an understanding among young people, if you like, your summit or whatever you call it, there is not even supposed to be having a need to bring together any summit of any nature of young people.
Yes.
Because the government of the day is sensitive to the young people's interests.
Yes.
So you are supposed, therefore, to have a department that begins to say, let us now be able to say, as a department, these areas of activity in terms of economy and benefit,
yes,
they now must be belonging to young people of this country.
Yes. Maybe to shorten our meeting as we are closing on our call, what will be your message to young people in relation to June 16 commemoration, Mr. Johnson?
The main issue, main issue, again, another area of benefit. But which is unfortunately more on the wrong side of things.
Yes.
Are drugs. The industry of drug abuse has been identified clearly as being that belongs to young people.
Yes.
All for wrong reasons. that today we have violence against young people, especially who are female.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Johnson, unfortunately, I'm sorry we're running out of time, but then I thank you so much for your message, and especially, when you said that the main problem with young people this morning, this day, actually, it's drugs. But I thank you so much. We will be talking to you, in future, and also inviting you in studio. So as we continue this morning's bulletin, we are still having our guest here, Andile Mngxitama, whom we're going to continue with. But Realeboga so much for your input and for the message, Ntate Lulu Johnson.
And
Thank
we
you.
also apologize for the ambush for sure. We didn't plan that at all. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, Mr. Mngxitama.
Thank you. We're still continuing
Just so you know.
with Andile Mngxitama right here in studio. This is still Pan-African Morning. So, Andile, as we've just heard, we've spoken to Lulu Johnson, about the views, and as we're continuing, with our interview.
Before Mr. Mngxitama can come in, let's just take a break and have a glass of water and just whoosa, and then and come back. Right. We'll be back just in a second. Thank you.
Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another.
Welcome back. You're still with us right here on Pan-African Morning on Galaxy Universal Network. Earlier on, if you've just joined us, we were just on the call with the former Deputy President of the ANC Youth League, Lulu Johnson, So, and now on studio, we're still continuing with Andile Mngxitama of BLF. And then, Andile, as you've heard what Mr. Johnson said on the phone, talking about the opportunities that the government is actually giving out, especially narrowing the interview down to young people accessing opportunities from the arts and culture. What would you have to say about that? Because earlier on you were just, shaking your head and,
honestly, I think it's a joke and a tragedy at the same time. That the senior leader of the ruling party has no clue about the extent of the problem that young people are facing in this country. And as part of honoring 1976, you'd have thought that young people today are not having to struggle, not just for service delivery. If you go to any township, service delivery protests, young people in the front, because they are the ones that have a problem with water, with electricity, with unemployment. You go to university, where the fees must fall movement, roads must fall. Young people are again forced, we send them as parents to go learn. But there's no means to learn, so they end up having to struggle, just like the students of 1976, under a government of democracy of Lulu Johnson. You know, I mean, we were at the number of times I support these young people where they go to the union buildings even to go and protest there against a government which is simply has no capacity to listen to young people. So when Lulu Johnson come here and he says there are a lot of opportunities, just organize yourself, go to the Department of Arts and Culture, it's a serious insult in my view. And it shows that really our government does not understand the challenges faced by young people. In South Africa, we know we are one of the top countries from the point of view of exclusion of the youth. Over 50%, in fact, I think close to 60% of young people are unemployed. You look at the category of unemployed people, we're talking about the young people in this country. Is, in my view, Tsietsi Mashinini.
In the arts, because Lulu Johnson is talking about, you know, accessing these funds in the art. But then life is not only about the art. Not every young person wants to be an artist.
But yeah, firstly, I mean, as we said earlier on, artists themselves are there. They are not being taken care of. Now he says,
they are not
young people, he's narrow-minded thinking that young people is sports and is culture, arts and culture, and then you must go there. Young people in this country want real liberation. And that is why we must talk about the economy. In whose hands is the South African economy? Yes. What have we done to make sure that young people actually participate in the economy of this country?
Maybe I would say right now, because Lulu is not on the phone right now with us. Obviously, he doesn't have his right to respond to what we are talking about right now. It would be best maybe we can now focus. I think I would want us to talk more about the current struggles as opposed to the struggles of 1976. You are one of the youth that has been fighting for black people in our country for a very, very long time. Do you think the fights that you've been putting forward, are they paying off? Is there something that is happening?
Yeah, I'm not part of the youth anymore.
But your movement has got a lot of...
Yes, our movement is a youth movement. It's a youth movement, 100%.
Yes. So
even my deputy president
is
actually quite a young person. No, for me, there is no break between 1976 and the struggles today. And often we make the mistake of saying 1976 was about Africans. It wasn't about Africans. Listen to Kgotso Siahlolo speaking, I think, in September 1976, after Tsietsi had left the country. And that speech by Kgotso is clear. He started with the global, analysis of the position of black people. He comes to South Africa. He calls for a 5-day strike, not to protest Africans, to call for liberation of total liberation of black people. So we still are not free. These young people did not die just protesting. In fact, Kgotso says Afrikaans was the point of departure. And that is why he then goes against the homeland system. He recalls the oppressed people and how we have died, and we must continue. That's why he calls for that 5 days stay away strike. He says we must continue with this struggle until total liberation of our people. Now, the question is, have total liberation been achieved? The answer from our point of view is no. What we are doing today is to carry on the struggle of 1976 because it has been betrayed by a government which has been given absolute majority of our people to change their circumstances. Yes. It hasn't done so. So our struggle is not new. We are continuing the struggle of 1976, and our hope is we will not betray it as it has been betrayed by those who have power today.
Can you give us the latest details with regards to the BLF as a whole? We know that there were attempts or even successful of turning out this party and
just like the 76 kids were banned. Tsietsi Mashinini had to go to exile. Kgotso Siahlolo had to go exile, come back, get arrested for 10 years. Was in Robben Island. By the way, I must just say this: I lived with Kgotso Siahlolo for about 1.5 years after he came out of Robben Island. I was in some ways mentored by Kgotso Siahlolo, who's number 2 to Tsietsi Mashinini in terms of leading the 1976. So it's very personal, this story to me. And I know what Kgotso felt years thereafter about how the ANC government was failing the dream of liberation. BLF is banned, just like they were banned by a democratic government, banned because an extremist, racist organization called the Freedom Front Plus, which has taken the grandson of Verwoerd to parliament. As we speak today, BLF has been excluded from participating in elections. But in parliament there sits the grandson of Verwoerd. Hendrik Verwoerd's son sits in parliament, a party or a movement that puts black people first. Has been denied the right to exist in South Africa. Well,
okay. I would say that some people are saying that BLF is a racist movement in terms that BLF, I think I've heard you say that you're excluding white people. And yet South Africa, the Constitution of South Africa says that South Africa is a South Africa for all who live in it. But then I think a whole lot of young people that I've spoken to, they are interested in BLF, but then BLF is actually excluding the people that they're growing up with, that they're living with. Because right now it's Youth Month, and the youth of today, they're saying we don't know apartheid. We've never experienced apartheid.
Want to be together.
This is South Africa for all. So now, but BLF is excluding, or you basically, like you said that BLF is only a party for black people. In the 20th century, how do you exclude other, people that are living in South Africa, white people, Afrikaner children, Indians and coloreds, and you're saying that BLF is only a party or a movement for black people only in 2020?
We follow Steve Biko. Black includes coloreds and Indians, so there's no contestation there. But the idea that black kids today who go to private schools don't know apartheid is not true. I have
never experienced apartheid, rather.
You can say formal apartheid, but racism, which is what apartheid is. As we speak, these kids who we take to private schools, our children, I mean, they've been, in fact, 2 weeks ago, if you saw the social media and the outpouring of the experiences of our children, today, as we speak, of absolute racism in the schools that we send them to.
Must we paint everybody, all the white people, with one brush?
I'm not interested to talk about white people. I'm talking about black people. We are the victims of a system designed by whom? White people. Benefiting whom? White people. Let me ask you this question. 26 years later, what have white people done to reciprocate the generosity of black people as Mandela has done? Or let us all live together. Have they paid reparations? No. Have they stopped racism? No. Have they returned land? No. Are they sharing the economy? No. Now, you sit here and want me to talk about white people who still own this country.
What do we do with the white people, like white young people that are actually, because we know that during the days of apartheid, there were white people that fought for the freedom of the black people with the black people. The white people that were fighting against racism, the white people that were fighting against oppression, there were still white people that did not agree.
They are the ones who caused the problem we have today.
They did not agree.
They are the ones who caused
what was happening.
The white people who were in the struggle are the ones who caused the problem. That's why they say to the ANC, South Africa belongs to all who live in it, both black and white. This is 1955. How is it possible that this country stolen from us belong to us and the thieves? They arrived in 1652, they oppress us, they take our land, they still have the land today. Black people, all of them here in this country were tenants. We are not citizens, we don't own this country, we own nothing. And then you say this country belongs to us and those who stole it from us. That's where the mistake was. And who wrote that? White people gave it to the ANC through the Freedom Charter. They took the same thinking, put it in the Constitution. Today, we can't get our land back because it is a property clause. And it is part of the foundational, the chapter 2 of the Constitution. So they say that if you want land, you must buy it. Willing buyer, willing seller. Willing buyer. We must be willing to buy, and they must be willing to sell. If they don't want to sell, they don't give us our land back. That's why we're talking about land expropriation without compensation. Now ask the question, 26 years later, what have white people done to demonstrate that they want to live with us? To demonstrate that they are sorry about apartheid, about genocide? Genocide against the Khoi and the San. They have done nothing. And then our movement is not interested in those people.
How do we expect them to maybe take responsibility in apologizing and stuff like that when the Constitution that we all abiding to as citizens of the Republic of South Africa is actually telling them, you've got nothing to be sorry about. You belong to this country. So how can we now fight the white people and say, apologize? But the Constitution that they live by does not tell them that they must apologize.
Exactly. It is their Constitution, it's not ours. Black first, land first. It's very clear. We want to change this Constitution. The first thing it must say, the preamble, South Africa belongs to black people. South Africa was stolen from black people.
So
and it must be returned to black
can we
people.
say that the fight right now should not be directed to the white people, but rather to the constitution of South Africa and the people? Because currently, the current president was part of the people that sat on the table and put together the constitution of South Africa.
Of course.
So can we now
Absolutely.
revolt against President Cyril Ramaphosa and say, change the constitution because you didn't write it right? And then after the constitution have changed, once the constitution has been changed, then we can say white people come and apologize. Because right now we are actually saying apologize for what? If the constitution is telling you are free.
But we know Rolf Meyer and Ramaphosa were friends, right? If you remember around the negotiations, and he was teaching him to fish. Ramaphosa was fishing. Rolf Meyer was writing the constitution. So really, but also, I mean, now more seriously, the current president was deeply involved in that process, and he has to defend the constitution.
Yes.
And we see, not speculation, the public protector has come out and said that he has actually been sponsored by what we call white monopoly capital with around R1 billion to contest the ANC conference. The consequence is that you have a president who not only wrote a constitution that protects white interests, but a president, from our point of view, who's being sponsored by white capital to perpetuate the same exclusion, which is entrenched in the constitution. That is why BLF says we need to change this constitution. That's why we say we need to take this land. We are not going to wait, by the way, we're organizing ourselves. And I'm very happy today to say, despite the fact that they're excluding us, a lot of black people understand what we stand for. Much, much more black people understand why they must become black first in a black country stolen from them by white minority. We're not interested to talk about white people.
I'm just going to have to cut this interview short. You know, in TV we work with time, and apologies about that. So just lastly, where is BLF now? And they are just
we are waiting for the country to maybe like level 1 to come. We are ready with paperwork. We're going to go back to register. We will do like them. Freedom Front Plus does not have one black person, but it claims to be democratic. So we'll play the game. Black people will have that option of voting for a party that is unapologetically for black people in a black country, which is still not in our hands.
But you'll still be inclusive of white people,
We
right?
are not going to include any oppressor and land thief.
But you are given an opportunity to fix your life.
So stay tuned. We are going to take a short break, and as we come back, we are definitely coming back with Babdumile Mateza with our Galaxy Sports News. Stay tuned.
Amanda, we don't know.
Hey, wait up! I want an ID parade now.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, we're still right here on Channel 500 on Stassett. As you have seen, it's a very heated day today. I must say we had a very, very beautiful day, and we hope that you did enjoy yourself. And as time is crippling by, we do apologize that quarter to spot was actually taken part, but obviously I cannot introduce Mr. Mateza without the official introduction by Palisa. Please, Palisa, please introduce Mr. Mateza.
Okay, we're with Baba Dumile Mateza, the world-renowned sports anchor. But then again, still on the line, we still have Ubab Seth Mazibuko. Seth Mazibuko was one of the youngest students in 1976 as well. You know, he is a cadre, and of course, he was also jailed back in the days, you know, during the days of apartheid. Bab Seth, welcome to Galaxy Universal Network. We understand that today you were at Avalon Cemetery, you know, cleaning graves. We want to know, which graves did you go and clean and why, in celebrating or commemorating this June 16?
Let me start by having to say it's good, and thank you for inviting us. This morning at 6 a.m. we woke up with some young people of the June 16 Youth Development Foundation, and these are young people who have approached some of us as, you know, the leaders of 1976, June 16, to say that now they don't want that history to die, the history of 1976, and they don't want that history to be written by foreigners, but it must be written by South Africans themselves. Yes. So our morning started with the visit to the graves of one Tsietsi Mashinini and Khotso Seatlulu. Then from there we went to Hastings Ndlovu. Hastings Ndlovu is one of the first victims that were shot by police in 1976. And then from there we went to Hector Peterson. And we are taking this route as a route because we have taken a resolution from this year, as in June 16 now, to June 16 next year. We have taken a resolution that we are going to use the spirit of 1976 to fight COVID-19. So actually we are saying we're saying June 16 versus COVID-19. We have come up with programs with young people that are now going to focus on using the values, the virtues, and the victories of 1976 to fight COVID. So we started with that process, as in the African tradition, we started by Ugiobika, you know, to go and announce our journey in all our taking up arms against.
Much Bab said, you know, I really hope at least we kept to the regulations of 50, you know, in the graveyards, right, Sanda?
Yes, yes. and making sure that, I mean, the COVID-19 regulations are adhered to.
Man, I just turned 60 yesterday. Understand that.
Happy 50th birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. No, we thank you so much for your time, and we hope that in the near future we can speak to you a little longer. But thank you for doing that. And of course,
let me just, before you maybe go, please let me request our people, you know, in 1976, the very first buildings that we brought down were Boko stores. Boko stores were the buildings that we brought down because they brought oppression to us. They were part of it. But we saved and protected our schools. And we never banned our schools. and I am requesting our young people in particular, protect our schools, demolish bottle stores. That should be the spirit. 1976, it was the struggle of the bullet versus the book. Now we seem to be facing the struggle of the book versus the beer. Please, let's just make sure that now we keep the spirit of 1976 by protecting our schools.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us, and we wish you all the best going forward. Thank you.
Well, that was Seth Masbugwendi, indeed,
Yes, yes.
the leader of the 1976. But yes, we are still in studio right here with Bab Dumile Mateza. What do you have for sports? You know, Dumile.
You didn't say poo 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 poo.
No, you don't say yours. Let's leave it to Bab Dumile.
Well, we have a couple of stories that we are following. One of them is a bizarre story of an 84-year-old father who have sued his son, 60-year-old son, Gary Player, South Africa's top golfer of the last 20 years or more, sued Mark Player, his son, for using a name that was given to him when he was still playing golf without compensating him.
So father is suing son?
His father is suing son.
For using his name?
He sued the son and won. He won in a court case in America. He was awarded $5 million, which is 85 million rand, against his son. And again, also we remember 44 years ago in 1976, Gary Player paid and enrolled or paid for Vincent Chabalala, the late Vincent Chabalala, to go and play in the French Open in 1976. And what happened? Vincent Chabalala won the tournament on that year. And so Vincent Chabalala, 44 years ago in 1976, won the French Open golf tournament. And there's a road named after him, London Road, what many people call London Road, is supposed to be called, is now called the Vincent Chabalala Road.
Oh, wow. You know, talking of Gary Player, he is South African, right?
He is,
and
yes.
Yes, he's got a house just there in Lanseria, not far from my house. So, yeah, you know, every time when I pass there, I was like, my neighbor is Gary Player.
People, huh?
That's who I am.
But there is a dark side to Gary Player, a very dark side of the apartheid dark side. Gary Player was playing in a tournament in 1963 in Durban when a young Indian golf player by the name of Papua Segulam played in that tournament and beat Gary Player. But unfortunately, because he was black, he was not allowed into the clubhouse. His trophy was given to him through a window whilst it was raining outside.
Yeah, that's very sad. You see, it takes us back to the days of apartheid and the freedom that we have now. You know, that back in the days, you would get a crown, you would win, you would get, you know, all these trophies. But then, because you were black in the days of apartheid, you were not allowed, you know, to be, you know, enjoying the freedom and getting that glory. Yeah, those were the days.
We're going to have an action-packed. I think I would like to hear more about father-son suing, and want to know if he have paid him. Already, so
I don't know whether he's going to pay. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So please do stay tuned. Exactly.
Because his father would turn around and say, "I just wanted to teach you a lesson."
And maybe he will pay the money, and the father say, "Take your money back."
It also demonstrates something else, that in business there is no brother, there is no sister. It is purely business.
We have always spoken about politics, sports business, and you have always, like, it's not a sport, it's business.
Well, Sunday, we're actually on top of the hour. It is 9 o'clock. We had a very great time with you right here on Pan-African Morning.
Already?
You know, Abo Andile Mngxitama.
Time
and
flies.
Then, Ukhosa's leader, Abo Goba.
Yeah.
Ugoba.
A young lion.
Indeed. We really hope that you enjoyed our time with us. From me, Palesa Muchuminyana, and of course the Galaxy team. Ngiti, thank you so much for joining us. You know, stay tuned because we still have a lot more packed for you, you know, in other programs to come,
for sure,
right?
for
Yeah.
sure,
So Usisanda must say, you know.
Definitely, it has just gone past 9 o'clock in the morning. We thank you very much for joining us today. We had a very, very beautiful day, and we hope that you do join us again tomorrow. Same time, same place, right here on Pan-African Morning. Of course, I would like to thank my co-host, Palisa, for making this beautiful day a nicer one. Without you, my day is doomed. Libambeni wezinsizwa khubukani ibambeke igama lami ngusisando noma sawaqaba intobazana yaphansi kwamhlabi yalingana mfuna ngiphuza ngiphuzukelekele kanti inkomo zakithi ngayishiya zidla phansi emahlatheni yasekubandeni esigodini sakwaZibi kwesigama azibandleni na uyazi ke asiphinde sibonane kusasa ke isitudio samampela sesithi nge bye
ta